Welcome in lacrosse fans to the Utah Lacrosse Report podcast. I'm your host, Tim Haslam. I've got a special one lined up for you today, and it's a matchup that's been building for years. This Friday night at 7 p.m., it's number 1 UVU hosting number 2 BYU as two of the most consistent and competitive programs in the MCLA go head-to-head at Skyridge High School. If you can't be there in person, you can catch the game live on kslsports.com/watch. What makes this one different isn't just the rankings. It's how even these teams are. Both programs come in undefeated. Both have navigated challenging schedules. And as you'll hear today, both coaching staffs believe that if each team brings its best 60 minutes, this game could come down to the smallest details, matchups, discipline, and execution. I had the chance to sit down with BYU head coach Matt Schneck and UVU head coach Colin Maxfield, and the message from both sides was clear. This isn't about hype or polls or statements. It's about preparation, culture, and embracing the challenge of playing the best. You'll hear why BYU sees this as the latest chapter in a rivalry that's quietly become one of the most competitive in the country, and why UVU has built a mindset around playing anyone, anywhere for a full 60 minutes. Let's get into it. This episode is brought to you by Vessel Kitchen. If you're heading to the big game on Friday, stop by the Sandy location or the American Fork location for a great pregame meal. From practice to game day, fuel matters. At Vessel Kitchen, everything's made from scratch with clean, high-quality ingredients so you can recover faster and play harder. Eat well, do well. Welcome to the show, Coach. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity to jump on with you today.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's going to be a good week here in the Beehive State. We've got a great matchup, obviously, between you guys and UVU. Wanted to just get your thoughts on the game and all that. But before we jump into that, you've been on this show before. It was a couple years ago. Grew up in Wilton, Connecticut. Came to BYU to play football, right?
That's right.
And then also played lacrosse at the time and have been here ever since. What have the last couple of years, dozens of years been like here for you?
Well, first of all, BYU just has a very special place in my heart, and growing up, the idea of just coming to BYU for college purposes was kind of a dream to do that, and so. As that started to come to fruition, getting accepted, coming out to school, being able to play football here and graduate from BYU, having the opportunity to play lacrosse towards the end of my BYU experience, just all of it was fantastic. And as the years, went by and got into my career, as opportunities opened up to get back involved, it was just like an awesome opportunity. There's something very special about the school and about the athletes here at BYU. And so it was just a really great opportunity to be able to surround myself with, some great people, and to be around a university and a group of people that I just think are really awesome. And so, over the years, that has continued to take shape. My involvement has been different over the years. And of course, most recently, coaching the men's lacrosse program and being around the team from that perspective has just been super awesome. Just rewarding and just a really neat experience.
Yeah, and as you come into this season, you've won national championships as a player, as a coach. What about this season? What about this team is different from years past, and maybe what are some of the similarities?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really feel like we've post-COVID. We made some pretty significant changes to how we approach things. And part of that was out of necessity. Part of it was inspiration through a variety of different alumni and players and people interested in the program, and just, taking a different look and a different approach to how we've been doing things. And that has led to some pretty successful seasons recently. And, BYU's always been a successful program, which is pretty tremendous. And just from a team culture perspective and a tradition perspective, we're very fortunate. But, especially these last few years, there's just been something, pretty amazing about the athletes, about the coaches, about just, what we've been able to put together. And, I think this year, especially, we have a tremendous group of seniors that are leading the way on this team. And they've gotten off to a really great start. And we've got a lot in front of us still, but they're off to a great start.
Yeah, and you talk about what's left and how you've gotten to this point. You open the season on the road at Arizona State and Grand Canyon, two typically very good MCLA lacrosse programs. Come away with 2 wins there. You host a Texas team. That was your home opener. Handled them pretty easily as well. And then Coach, it's just been kind of a run. Maybe the Simon Fraser game was a little bit challenging. Just looking at the scores. Seemed like a back and forth affair, high scoring affair. And then you have this 3-day or 3-game and 4-day road trip to Tennessee, and you come out of that one unscathed too. Although not necessarily easily, but talk about just some of those games and how they've helped prepare your team so far this year.
Yeah, MCLA is super interesting lacrosse because honestly, you do your best to schedule your next year's opponents. You are hoping for the best from everybody that you are scheduling, and you just never know what you're going to get. Yeah. And that's just, that's kind of been a fairly common theme, over the years. And though there are traditionally teams that have performed stronger year after year, there's always surprise teams that all of a sudden pop up and have, these outstanding seasons, or maybe a few outstanding seasons in a row. And, so that's the first thing. I think all MCLA coaches or most MCLA coaches are really doing their best to try to schedule quality opponents so that they are, challenging their team throughout the season. Our approach has been really simple, which is we feel like we are putting our regular season schedule together so that we are preparing for the postseason every single year. And it always doesn't work out that way with, who you're playing. And sometimes, a team may be having a tougher year, or somebody that you may have been expecting was going to be a good game becomes a great game. And you weren't expecting that either. But we feel really fortunate with the way our schedule has turned out this year. I mean, great opponents, great competition. We have been on the road a lot this year, but I think that there's some benefits to having that experience as well for the team. And, we're really pleased with where we're at so far. As you mentioned, there have been a couple of the games that we've played that have been a little bit closer. And I think that's hats off to the teams that we're playing, that they're good quality teams. And sometimes you just find teams that you match up better against, or vice versa, that they match up better against you. And, it's one of those crazy things where you look at the results of a particular game, and then you see that same team play another team, and you see completely different results. And you're like, where did that come from? And then you just kind of chalk it up to welcome to the MCLA. And, any given day, any given face-off, you're going to get some pretty random results. And so we're super grateful to have been on the top side of those results so far this year.
You mentioned there's still lots of lacrosse left. I mean, Coach, for you guys to get into the national championship game, that's 2 more RMLC games, and then the 4 national tournament games on top of the 5 games you have left. So potentially, what is that? 11 more games.
We actually were talking about that in our team meeting this morning. I mean, we're 10 games in, but we potentially have 11 games left. And, but those 11 games are going to happen in the next 6 weeks.
Right.
You know,
so they're going to come quick.
Kind of go time, right now it's trying to keep these guys healthy. They're also all going to be entering into this final phase of school, where they're finishing up their last few weeks plus finals and everything else. And so they've got a lot going on. So trying to balance all of that and keep kids healthy, both mentally and physically, is a big part of the next 6 weeks.
And Coach, I've talked to you before about this, and you've always been a proponent of balance, right? And lacrosse is just a portion of your life. What does this week look like for the guys? What's your practice schedule? When are you doing film? All that stuff leading up to Friday's contest.
Yeah, honestly, this week is no different for us than any other week, except for this away game we don't have to travel too far for.
Right.
And so honestly, everything else is the same. We're not doing anything different this week than we would do any other week. We are limited by the university in regards to our total number of hours that we get with our student athletes each week. And that's capped to 10 hours. And that 10 hours includes the practice days, lifting days, meetings, film sessions. So we've got to build it all into those 10 hours. And so we use the 10 hours that we get pretty much every week. And so our schedule is definitely something that we've been able to allow our athletes to count on. They know what to expect every single day of the week. It doesn't change for them, honestly, the entire season. And the only time that changes is when we're traveling, and then we have to make some adjustments, obviously, for the travel schedule.
Sure. And talking about this weekend's matchup, that's Friday at 7 p.m. against number 1 UVU. Coach, it's ironic. You guys were voted number 1 in the RMLC poll, preseason poll, and UVU was number 1 in the nationwide poll. So, I mean, on paper, Coach, like, 2 programs that I'm not saying that they're the same, but on paper, like, very similar. The stats are very similar, records are similar, everything. As you look at this game, what do you see from UVU that may present some challenges? What are some areas where you're excited, or what are you looking to accomplish in this one?
Yeah, I mean, so I think you're right. I mean, I'm expecting a very good game, and however you want to define what a good game looks like. I think if UVU brings their best and BYU is able to bring their best, I think you're going to see a real competition, and it should be a very fun and energetic game for the fans to be able to watch. I mean, look, we saw this coming, right? from a long time ago. I mean, the last several years, this has turned into a very, very good competition between these 2 teams, and so it is it's something that I think everybody's looking forward to, and is excited about. As you mentioned, I mean, if you look at it statistically speaking, you got 2 very even teams, right? Both teams have won 10 games. Both teams have scored about the same number of goals. Both teams have let in about the same number of goals. You take a look at the coaches poll, and the coaches poll is pretty much split. You look at, all these different things, and basically what you see is 2 teams that are definitely very well matched up against each other. And so obviously, as we get to Friday's game, we're going to start to see some separation, but I don't anticipate that is going to be much separation. And we're looking forward to it. I mean, I think that, like I said, I think you get both of these teams out there and playing their best. It's going to be an exciting game to watch.
And I couldn't agree more. And I think that's why, we're trying to let the people know how important this game is. And you coming on the podcast today definitely helps that. I want to talk just after this game. You've got, the infamous road trip to Colorado, which has traditionally been very tough, going against Colorado on April 9th and Colorado State on April 11th. Talk about what makes that road trip so difficult.
Yeah, well, I mean, so first of all, like you mentioned, I mean, we're starting conference play. I know there's a couple of the teams in the conference that have already played each other, but for us, this is the start of our conference play over the next few weeks. And so number one, I think that the tradition of the RMLC is always been very, very good, and you can just anticipate that you're going to see teams that are and have had experience being successful. And the Colorado trip, especially, Colorado right now looks like they're getting they're figuring things out, right? They had a little bit of a rough start to the season, but now they've been knocking off ranked opponents, and they're doing it just in time, right? Just in time for conference play. They're putting everything together. And so I anticipate that you're going to see Colorado is going to be an extremely tough game. And then when we go and we play Colorado State, this has been turned into their senior day. It's in Canvas Stadium, which is their football stadium. They are making it into a celebratory event, and they get lots of people that come out to the game. The kids are excited to play in such an incredible venue. And, all that stuff just puts together, all of a sudden makes this a very, very challenging trip. And especially for teams that know that their pathway to the postseason is going to be coming through these games, right? It's qualifying for the RMLC championship tournament, and then ultimately for the national championship tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And traditionally, the RMLC some years have put 4 teams in the national tournament.
That's right.
And if Colorado and Colorado State, get a game against you or UVU, like that could also be a realistic possibility this year. Coach, I want to thank you for coming on, spending some of your morning with me today, and we will see you Friday, and may the best team win.
Hey, thanks so much, Tim. Looking forward to it. Have a great day.
Welcome to the show, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. First time on the Utah Lacrosse podcast. I appreciate it. For those who don't know your background, when did you start playing lacrosse?
So I was pretty late to the game. I didn't pick up a stick until the spring of my senior year of high school. I grew up in Salt Lake, played at East, and had some buddies that were playing, and they convinced me pretty late on, and fell in love with it pretty quickly, and then all downhill from there.
As we like to say, there's times I feel the same way, to be honest with you. That's funny. As an East High graduate, do you embrace High School Musical or despise it?
Somewhere in the middle. I think at this point, I just predicted that's going to be the first question that's asked when I bring it up. But it's worldwide renowned East High School, so yeah, pretty neutral.
And they fully embrace it. I learned recently East does tours for the.
They do tours. Yeah, they do tours. They have like the pink locker is still intact. So like if you walk down the hallway, you can see Sharpay's locker. Don't know where I pulled that one from, but I'm pretty sure that's the name. So yeah, they love it.
And you play lacrosse at East. When did you know that you wanted to play at the next level?
Yeah, so it was about halfway through the season. I remember walking into practice, and I fell in love with the game immediately and became a junkie. Right, I'm talking like YouTube highlight videos till 1 o'clock in the morning, and bugging the hell out of my neighbors by playing wall ball in the garage at 12:30 a.m. And I remember walking to practice and like jokingly saying like, "Oh yeah, I'd play in college." And my high school coach, Pete Stevenson, kind of looked at me and was like, "Well, you could if you wanted to." And so he was the one that kind of helped me understand it, like that was potentially a possibility. And once he created that dream or kind of made it into reality, then I was chasing it ever since then.
And for those who don't know, Pete Stevenson, longtime name in the lacrosse world here in Utah. I want to say he played on that first Orem team that ever existed in 1994. Coached at East, coached at Colorado, has coached at BYU. Did he coach at UVU? He might have.
I'm not sure. I know he had a stint at like Weber State, and he's just been around. But Pete is the absolute man. I've been blessed by having great coaches when I was playing, that kind of instilled that love for the game in me, and just super grateful for those guys. Pete first, and then Jason Lamb in college.
That's right, and you find your way to Southern Virginia. You play there and then stick around and coach there. Talk about that transition. You have a great playing career, and then what led to now then, hey, I want to keep doing this and be a coach.
Yeah. It wasn't super purposeful. When I finished playing, was out of eligibility. I had a couple credit hours left over. And when Coach Lamb figured out that I was still on campus, it wasn't really a choice. He kind of informed me that I was going to be coaching, and had a great experience with him. Scotty Winterton was on that staff, another guy that has some ties to BYU and Utah. And then, when I graduated and left Southern Virginia, I came back to Utah, not with the intention to coach. I got a job in the outdoor industry, selling bikes. And good old Marty Westcott texted me one day and said, hey, can I take you out to lunch? And I was like, I wonder what this is about. And he pitched the idea to me of jumping on the UVU coaching staff. And that was in 2019, the fall of 2019. And so I jumped on and got to know those guys. And frankly, that was kind of the year that solidified, like, hey, I think I might want to try to do this as a profession. And so took it seriously that year, had a really great experience coaching with those guys. And then the following year, Jason offered me a full-time position, and from kind of 2021 onwards, jumped into this thing in a full-time capacity, doing lacrosse as the job.
Yeah, and you had a stint at Westminster as well. As you talk about sort of the coaches that you've worked with, what are some of the traits that you've picked up from those guys along the way?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different things from each guy that I've worked with. Jason has a passion for the game and a passion for coaching that I think is frankly unrivaled, right? His work ethic and the way that he just throws himself into the kind of coaching world is something that I learned pretty quickly. And I think that year, doing it full time out there in 21, I learned that, like, this is a grind. And if you want to be great at this, you got to work hard. Took that on, and then, coaching with, Coach Barnhill and Marty Westcott and Carl Cooney and Todd Arbin and all those guys at UVU, the love for the players and the love for the experience that we can provide to these young men, and kind of understanding that, like, as a young guy for me, 23 years old on that coaching staff, like, I loved lacrosse. And then those guys kind of helped me understand, like, hey, this is a transformative time in young men's lives, and we can make a much bigger impact. And then, going over with Coach Kerwin, I think, learning how to be a head coach. I went from being his assistant and then jumped on as a head coach at UVU, and his demeanor and the control that he has of his sideline and his emotions, and just kind of the behavior of a head coach, I think I took away and still try to emulate that. Not doing a great job, hand up. Sometimes I get a little fired up on the sideline, but learned so much from Coach Kerwin. And, Brad Lavoie, who's the current coach at Westminster, he's the guy that I call when I have a lacrosse question that I don't know the answer to, or I need some advice. Brad is a guru, and a close friend, and somebody that I trust and look up to massively.
And Brad is also a recruit database. So if you ever have a question about a kid, he'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, he'll pull names out from 9 years ago from some obscure area, and it's crazy. His knowledge of recruiting, him and Nick Mastrodor's both, it's wild.
Yeah, you mentioned the grind aspect of coaching. I had suspicions, and then when I became the director of ops at Utah, it was on full display. I just gained a ton of respect for coaches, even at the high school. Like, the high school level is still a grind, because most of them are also working like day jobs and then putting up with whatever happens at the school, like all that kind of stuff. And then in college, it's just even more. It's more amplified. I look at the coaches up at Utah, because that's what I know. And like Drew, Sean, Tim, they have like there's like 3 real weekends a year where they actually have a weekend to themselves.
Yep.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you go from fall headfirst into winter recruiting, headfirst into spring season. Like you said, maybe a weekend off, maybe, and then straight into summer. And the summer cycle, is a travel every weekend, basically.
Yeah. And then the guys are coming back to campus August, second week of August, third week of August. So really it's like that. And that's when Coach Doyle got married last week, was that first week of August, or last year, that first week of August, because that's literally like the only free time. It's insane. Yep. But, a huge admiration to all coaches and just the grind that it takes. And you really realize that, the other coaches are doing it because they love lacrosse. But then to your point, they love helping young people become better people. And that's something that I've picked up a lot as being around coaches as well. So let's talk about UVU coming into this game on Friday. No secret who the opponent is, BYU at 7:00, Skyridge High School. I'm looking forward to it. Tons of other people are looking forward to it. My nephew, who is a big lacrosse fan, texted me, "Hey, you going to the game on Friday?" I said, "Of course I'll be there." So everyone's looking at this game, but let's look at like how you got here, right? Open the season against Utah Tech. I was at that game for the first half. I was actually impressed more with Utah Tech because I'd never seen them play, and they got some guys. Like it was really encouraging, honestly, because I would love nothing more than every MCLA team in Utah to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the country. And then you go to Arizona, play Grand Canyon, Arizona State, come out of those games comfortably. The game against Texas, Oregon State, comfortable wins as well. Then you head to California, number 5 UCSB. On paper, it's a 5-goal game. Then you go down the road, or I guess up the road, to Cal Poly, comfortable win. A couple games in there against Minnesota, Boise State, comfortable wins. South Carolina, then last weekend. I mean, that one was pretty comfortable as well. They kind of started to chip back there at the end. But looking back at the 10 games you've played so far, what are some of the moments that stand out, or takeaways that you've had from those games?
Yeah. I learned a lot from last year, kind of first year head coach going into this season. And so I think the tone of every one of those games and the conversation has changed from previous years to this year, where every game that we've played so far, the focus has been, can we put our best 60 minutes on the field, regardless of the opponent, right? Every game that we play is a chance to go out there and play our brand of lacrosse and focus on the guys wearing green and white. And yes, you got to prep for the other team, and they're going to throw different challenges at you. But every one of those games that you named, like, my brain doesn't go back to like, oh, what did UCSB do? It was, oh, how do we play against the 2-man actions when they start slipping versus the hard pick in the second half? And that's an us thing, right? Like, oh, what did Cal Poly do? Oh, how do we fly out to shooters on the backside when there isn't a drawn slide on the first side of the possession? And it's been a cool kind of thought process because it keeps our guys focused and motivated. Look, like we're 10-0. And we have a average goal differential of 15 right now. A lot of teams would be very complacent with that. And I think our coaching staff, down to our captains, to our seniors, down to our freshmen, have fully adopted this mentality of like, we don't care what the score is. We don't care what the other team's doing. We're looking to put our best 60 on the field every single time that we play.
And is there a game where, I mean, there's never a perfect game, right? Is there a game in those first 10 where you thought, well, we had 56 great minutes? Is there a game that kind of stands out, or is it kind of, been average across the board?
Yeah, I think probably point to Arizona State probably is the most complete so far. And I'd put that one down at about like the 48 to 50 minute range. Okay. I will say consistently so far this season that we put a stretch of probably 25 to 30 minutes that I've felt very, very happy with, along with the rest of our coaches. And it's just understanding, how do we see that through? How do we make 35 or 40 minutes into 60? And, certainly looking forward to this weekend. Like, we believe this is a game that we're going to have to play 60. And that's exciting, right? That's an awesome challenge to be able to step up to.
And you're forced to play BYU, but if you weren't, you would still try to schedule, the top teams in the MCLA, and BYU always being one of them. talk about this game and what are some of the things that you've seen on film or some of the things that you're excited about, and sort of walk fans through, like, what does a week looking up to the game look like?
Yeah, I guess we'll start in the week preparation. A little bit short week, right? We play on a Friday night instead of a Saturday. And so our kind of week stuff looks pretty similar from week to week. Monday is get loose, get the bodies moving. Middle of the week, we go into some preparation stuff. So whether that's, Scout O, Scout D, Scout Ride, Scout Clear, whatever we feel like we need to spend some time on in practice getting ready. And then by Thursday, the focus turns back to us and making sure that we roll through all of our stuff, man up, man down, face-offs, clear, ride, and feel ultra confident kind of going into Friday. And so that's the plan this week. We'll get into some fun preparation stuff today and tomorrow, which my nerdy lacrosse brain loves, and then turn the focus back to us on Thursday and Friday.
And what are some of the things that you're excited about heading into this game? What are some things that maybe BYU does better than other teams that you're excited to go up against?
Yeah, I think, like, just to speak honestly here, like, BYU has elite talent across the board, right? At basically every position group. Obviously with the guys that played Division I and transferred, like, there's a reason those guys played D1 lacrosse. And so, like, that is going to be a unique challenge in terms of the individual matchups and making sure that we feel like we can handle those guys. And then Coach Schneck does a great job preparing them system-wise, right? Like, they are not an easy team to play against, whether that's the zone 10-man that they've rolled out in years past, whether it's a match ride going back to the Jason Lamb era, that we still see kind of carry over. And then certainly the individual talents that play within that system. So it's across the board, it's the challenge, man. Offense, defense, face-offs, rides, clears. They make it tough. And
that gets you excited as a coach, right? To see how your team handles that response, see how they can come out and get your guys ready, prepared for that. Again, you need to go all 60 in this one to come away with the win.
Yeah, of course, just like a little peek into like our psyche and our program, right? The conversation that's had behind the scenes is like, there's two types of competitors or two types of guys that are in this sport, right? There's the guys that see a challenge like that and they are scared, right? And they say, oh, I don't know if I want to play in that game, right? The people and the young men that we attract to our program and the guys that we have in it, like, we seek out challenges like that, right? These are the type of games that we look forward to, right? And not in a, like, oh, we got to prove something and do this or do that. It's like, look, we'll play anybody anywhere, right? We scheduled our schedule this year in the preseason was 11 out of 14 games ranked in the top 20, right? Like, that's on purpose. Those are the type of experiences that we want when we're selling it to high school kids, right? Like, that's what we're selling is, like, you're going to come here, you're going to play the best teams in the country. And through that process, you're going to find the best version of yourself, right? Because that's what this level of competition does, is it pushes you to the next level, and got to do some, some soul seeking to find how to kind of rise to that challenge.
Absolutely. Looking just beyond this game, and, regardless of win or loss, you still got to go to Colorado and play two top teams that are what seems like just figuring it out and peaking at the right time. What are the challenges that come in going on that road trip to Colorado?
Yeah. Hopping in the program in kind of 2019, we've checked off a lot of program first between then and now. There's not a lot left, but we've never won either of those games on the road in the regular season. Not once. There's no UVU team that's beat CSU, on the road in the regular season. We've never beat CU on the road in the regular season. And so I don't trust their records whatsoever, right? Like, they're BS. I know both those coaching staffs. They're going to be prepared. They're going to be ready, and they're really, really good at lacrosse. And that's going to be a freaking gnarly road trip. But again, like, we're looking forward to it, right? Like, we want to go play in those games. We're excited for that challenge.
Absolutely. And then you finish the season with a game against Utah, and then head into the RMLC, and then potentially 4 more games at the national tournament. That's the plan, right? So you've still got 10 games left. How are you keeping the team fresh? How are you keeping their minds in a good spot, knowing that you're basically halfway?
Yeah, I think, number one, in the weekly preparation, the goal is to walk into whatever game we're playing healthy and prepared, right? And that's a fine balance, right? Because if I keep them on the field for 2.5 hours running a scout offense set, they ain't going to be healthy on Friday, and so it's this fine balance going between the two. And then as far as like the whole season perspective, right? It's, I think, focusing on the short term and understanding like, what are the goals for this week? What are we trying to accomplish in this game? What are the tweaks we're making from the SC game going into BYU? And then not changing that tone throughout the remainder of the season, right? Like that's been the message from the start, still is the message now. And hopefully the guys kind of don't get the deer in the headlights and start looking at everything else coming down the pipe. It's like, we play one lacrosse game this week, so let's focus on playing one game.
Said like a true coach. I love it.
Yeah, I know. Coach speak, but it's the truth, right? It's the truth. Like that is the only way to make a 20-game season palatable is one game at a time. Absolutely.
And a metaphor for life sometimes too, right? Just control what you can control, put your next foot forward, just attack the day that you have, because, tomorrow could be different. When you think about, where this team began and where you're at now, what are some of the things that you're looking at, even two years ago, when you took over the program to where you're at now? What are some of the things that you think have led you to this point and have made it a success?
Yeah, we are a culture-based organization at our heart. Yes, we love going and recruiting and finding great lacrosse players. But most importantly, we find the guys that fit our culture. And people want to talk about the Instagram highlights and the toe drags and the top corners and all that stuff. But in reality, like we have a group of 54 young men that have exceedingly high character, that love each other, that play hard for the guy next to them. I tell people all the time, when you watch us play, watch our sideline when we score, right? You have guys that are on the end of the bench that maybe aren't going to play that day, that are celebrating like they just scored a game winner because they know, the hardship that guy's gone through to go on the field. And so, yeah, we've done a lot of fun things on the field, but the most important thing that we have and the motivator for all of our success is that culture and the young men and the people that we have around the program that, add to that on a daily basis, right? Like I know coach speak here, but culture is not stagnant, right? You don't get to walk in and participate in that. You either add to it or you detract from it. And we truly have guys that, do that on a daily basis and come in to help the team out and kind of buy into our team motto.
I've long thought that you can tell a team's culture by how their backup goalies react. And so I tend to watch them and see how they're reacting. Some teams, they're just kind of there. Other times they are the hype squad, right? And so I didn't get a chance to pay attention to that last Saturday, but I will on Friday to see how we go there. If I asked Jason Lamb, who would he rather win this game on Friday, what would he say?
You'd have to ask him that question. I can't speak for Coach Lamb.
Lots of ties, right? He's got lots of ties. Obviously, he coached with Coach Schneck. He coached, with you as well. And I think that's how the state feels, to be honest with you, Coach Maxfield. We all have different ties to the program. The players on the program itself have ties. And so that's what I think makes this one so intriguing. And we're looking forward to it. Any last words you want to say before we see you on Friday?
No, man, we're excited. The boys are pumped. I feel ultra confident about the, preparation that our coaching staff is going through. I've got the best coaching staff in the MCLA. My assistants are going to have the boys ready. It's, my job on game day is to, put the subs on the field and stay out of the way and try not to mess it up. So we're excited.
Very good. Thanks again for joining the show today, Coach, and may the best team win on a Friday.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.